Welcome to Zeta Global Radio. I am your host, Lainey Savante. Today we're talking about stress, and whatever brings you the most alignment in everything you do is the name of the game, and we have the absolute pro here today. In fact, we're welcoming her back to the show. If you remember last year, Dr. Marilyn Joyce was here with us on our show about cancer, being that she is a 5-time cancer survivor. But she's also a mega author, internationally renowned for her books, for her speaking, her mentoring, her training. She's really an extraordinary human being I've had the privilege over the last year getting to know as well. And I'm so pleased because last year she was just gearing up for this book, The Stress to Success Formula, Transforming Your Life, Career, and Business Now. And we said we'd have her back, and now is that moment. So I am absolutely thrilled to bring back, welcome, and have here Dr. Marilyn Joyce. Thank you so much for being here today.
It is my joy and pleasure, Lainey, always.
Oh, I'm so excited. I knew this moment would come. And I was saying to you off air that today has been, for some reason, an unusually stressful day. And I said, well, then you have given me, Spirit, lots of content to discuss with Dr. Marilyn Joyce today. So before we do that, I thought what we would do, just to get things going, is to maybe give people a background. I mean, my intro of you does not even begin to explain the wealth of knowledge, the incredible experiences you've had, both good and bad, but all brought you to who you are now. So I thought maybe you give your own recap, and then we can jump into this incredible book that I've been digging into, and I can't wait to dive more. So take it away, lady.
Hey, I will. Thank you. You know, life is funny and full of twists and turns. I've been saying that a lot lately. And, you know, one of the quotes I used right at the very start of the book on stress, The Stress to Success Formula, is that quote that everyone has assumed John Lennon first spoke about, but it was actually spoken about way back in the 50s. And that is, you know, life happens when you're making other plans.
Yes, I loved that. That stopped me, by the way, in your book. I loved that one, and I love the Deepak Chopra one, which I'll let you quote that because it's your book.
Yes, I love that one too. You must find the place inside yourself where nothing is impossible. It really connected to me because back in 1989, I was told when I was 88 pounds in a wheelchair with less than 2 weeks to live that was it. I was done. There's nothing more they could do for me, and it was impossible to even vision a life beyond that wheelchair and a life beyond, at that time, 39 years of age. And at that point, I had read another quote that was, I believe it was Audrey Hepburn. People say it was quoted by other people, but it's in the word impossible is I'm possible. That was a turning point. It took me to the next level of understanding. So when I saw because I'm here many years later, alive and well, and have had a lot of years of existence, almost 30, you know, I mean, since that time.
Wow.
18, and it's hard for me to even believe that I was given only 2 weeks in 1989, and I have since then experienced so much in my life. Not all good. You know, life is full of ups and downs and twists and turns. It's not what happens to you, but how you relate to what happens to you, which is what led to actually writing this book. Because so often we get caught up in, oh my gosh, life is such a drag. Everything goes wrong. There's so much stress in the world, and we can always focus on the negative. But what I realized in, you know, interviewing people and who had gone to hell and lived to tell, and, you know, after losing someone, something or everything they thought was important to them.
Right.
You know, and that was going to be my next step, was the journey of 1,000 days. But instead, I met all these people when I was giving away everything I owned, just to move on to the next level of my life. And they were extraordinary, and they had stories that actually outdid my own story on many levels, you know, at least for me, because I was hearing somebody else's stories that related to, when they would hear mine, they would tell me theirs, or vice versa. We would share these amazing stories about overcoming odds. So that was where that quote came from, and I just thought it really fit with everything that I was talking about. But the quote that really, life happens to us when we're making other plans, and that was actually Alan Saunders from Publishers Syndicate in 1957. He was the first person to say it, and then, of course, John Lennon wrote the amazing song, Beautiful Boy, that took that to the next level and really made it, a popularized quote, but a really profound quote, because when you think about your life, if I had not been diagnosed with cancer, I might still be, living the life I was living, and it was a good life, but it was nothing. It was not a big adventure. It wasn't like jumping ship and saying, okay, I'm going to just get in my car and I'm going to go to New Mexico, which was the place I loved. So I would go down to Santa Fe, and I would spend copious amounts of time just, wandering around Santa Fe and doing numerology readings for people, and, getting away from the professional life I was living because I thought I had no time. I was given so little time. I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do with my life. I'm just going to enjoy the city that I love and the state I love. And so that would be my journey. And then, lo and behold, I decided, okay, if I've only got a short time to live, I'm going to go down to the States, to New Mexico. Then I'll go over and visit my girlfriend, who I hadn't seen in 17 years, in California. And then I'll decide what I'm going to do for the last remaining weeks or months of my life.
In those moments when you're told a specific by somebody else, not God, but somebody human, saying you have 2 weeks to live, I can't even imagine first the insurmountable amount of stress that is. But it sounds like you de-stressed at that point. Or what was the shifting point? Did you surrender? Did you get a sign? Like, what happened for you? And did you de-stress? And obviously what you've pulled from that and everything else in your life has brought you to this incredible book. But I just kind of want to touch on that one point before we take a break.
Absolutely, Lainey. That, I believe, was what happened. At the time, I couldn't have explained it in that manner or even really realized it from that perspective. But when I look back and I realized what happened was that I let go. And yes, I surrendered. I said, okay, if I've only got a short time to live, let me live it to the fullest. And I had, gone to a big home show and was introduced to the whole concept of ice chips with nutrition, which no one had ever. All I could do at my lowest point was suck on ice chips. I couldn't eat or drink anything. I would just throw it up. So I was really at that place where it didn't look good at all. But what happened was, I met Jim the Vitamix man. He taught me about these ice chips with nutrition, and then I met Dr. Bernie Siegel. So this was before I actually made the journey down. And with Dr. Bernie Siegel, I was introduced to the concept of a gratitude journal, and I started to write that. And believe me, the first time I wrote in that book, I couldn't think of anything, so I just wrote the same thing as the good doctor recommended. You just write the same thing 5 times. And so when the sun shone for a few seconds in a cold, wintry, blustery, overcast day up in Toronto, Canada, I knew that was a sign. So I wrote, thank you for the sun, thank you for the sun, thank you for the sun 5 times. But by the end of a month, I wrote 138 gratitudes, and all of them were different. And I really understood shortly after that concept that Dr. Siegel talked about all the time, which what you focus on expands. What you focus on expands.
Yes. I'm all about the journals. I'm all about the expression and acknowledgement and the allowing of all that you see. Yeah, really important.
Exactly. And then, from there, yes, I got in the car and I remember thinking, okay, if I've got no time, I'm going to make every minute of every day count, every second. And it was amazing, the miracle after miracle after miracle, little miracles, nothing huge, but little miracles that happened that brought me from Canada through across the border, down through the States to New Mexico, over to Arizona to meet with friends, and then California to meet with my girlfriend and meet her kids at long last. And, and she's like my soul sister. We've known each other for over 50 years. It blows my mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, but yes, surrender. When you surrender, the stress disappears, and that probably allowed that whatever nutrition I was getting to actually be absorbed. That allowed the joy in my life to expand, which, of course, when you have joy, your body, everything in your body flows, everything in your life flows. When you are stressed out, there's a closure. There's it's like a contraction that happens. And so that's when illness can occur. It's much more biochemical and much more.
It's much more intricate. There's more things at play.
Perfect, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are going to play some more in this great conversation. I'm going to just take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring it forward and talk about more of the pieces and elements of this great book and how people can hands-on, if you're feeling stressed, hopefully you're not, if you're listening to this, not as stressed as you were, because now we're starting to unwind. And you said the greatest thing just now is surrender. And once you surrender, that stress does fall away, because it's just, you got to just allow the universe to, show you the next steps for resolution. So yes. All right. So you're listening to ZGR, and I'm so glad you're all here. We'll be back in a moment. Conscious businesses. Do you have a powerful prayer, meditation, affirmation, audiobook, or music that you're ready to bring to the global stage? Have you considered taking your enlightened gifts to the next level by recording them professionally so the world can hear your knowledge and wisdom? Enlightened Audio and Sound is your production source for taking your talents and making them and you known all over the planet. Record in a magical setting with the expertise of renowned music engineer, composer, and recording artist Howard Merlin Wolkin. Will not only assist you in developing a concept that can be recorded with top-level commercial quality, but will also assist you in bringing your media asset to market in a variety of mediums, including digitally to iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, and thousands of more outlets. To learn more, visit our Facebook page, Enlightened Audio and Sound, about bringing your business and career to new heights.
Communities Network, where we honor the uniqueness in our oneness. Visit our website to meet our vast spiritual community of healers, therapists, conscious events, and activities. Visit and check out our directory, upcoming retreats, workshops, products, free videos, and much more. Many services are available globally by phone, Skype, and other sources of media. You'll also find more information on how you can be a member to promote the work you're doing in the world. Visit us now at spiritualcommunitiesnetwork.com.
We're just going to get right into it. We're formal, we're informal here, we're all friends. We're taking the stress off formality, so I don't even have to say welcome back to ZGR. We're just in it. And I think we're in it to win it, and we have a wonderful guide doing that. By the way, Marilyn, Dr. Joyce, I was wondering what's the best way of approaching. I was really taken by how many beautiful beings wrote you these incredible testimonials and quotes in your book. I mean, you just have such a vast network of people who've been touched by the stress formula. So it was a great way of going into the book of like, wow, it immediately was like, oh, this is all about the power, and really seeing how many people, how important stress is to making, how prevalent, I should say, stress is.
That's the thing. You can't avoid stress. It's always going to happen. It's it's like that whole idea of it's not what happens to you, but how you relate to what happens to you, or how you deal with it. How you express through it. And I think that's the key element there. Is it's going to happen, but how do you relate to it, and how quickly can you change your mind, change your heart, change your soul, so that you can move to the next level. And that's the key. In our world today, there's just no way to avoid stress. I don't think that you ever could. Somebody said to me, oh, it's way more stressful today than it was, in the turn of the century, 1900. Not even talking 2100. I mean 2000. I'm talking 1900. And yet my grandmother could tell me stories that were unbelievable about the things they went through, especially during the Great Depression. They went from riches to rags and kind of thing. Now, they regained everything to a large extent decades later, but the point is that they went through tremendous stress as well, and it's just different. Today it's more of a technologically based stress that we're living in. And people, the one difference is that where my grandparents would have dinner and then go for an hour or two walk after dinner and go talk to all their neighbors and have a social connection, which is what keeps the longest living people healthy, the blue zone people healthy, is that social connection aspect. We don't have as much of that today. And, when I listen to people like Simon Sinek talk about, the generation today and how lost they are on many levels, part of the reason they're lost is that they're dealing with enormous stress from school and traffic and, getting good grades and trying to keep up with everything, the 24/7 lifestyle because of our cell phones and everything. And text messaging. They're trying to keep up with all of that, and they're not getting any movement in their body. They're not eating healthy food, and they're not going out and taking that evening walk and connecting with friends person to person. Instead, they're texting, and if it can't be said in less than 100 characters, then it probably won't get said, or even less than 100 characters.
So what you just said about healthier people, or it's been shown that people who are most social, more connected are healthier. Is that for overall mind, body, spirit? Because I'm thinking about those people who are, quote unquote loners, or they're very independent and love to just do their own thing. I mean, immediately I thought, what about those people? But I didn't know that piece. Obviously it makes sense, but I didn't know that was a crucial piece actually to de-stressing, is to having that.
Well, it's actually, when I was doing the book on stress, the word transform, I'd love to, if it's okay, I'd love to share just a little story about that.
Of course, yes.
Because this was an epiphany for me. I was writing this book, and I was I like acronyms. I like acronyms because they're ways for people, like with instant energy. I use the word energy as an acronym and for the things I was talking about in the book. Well, when I was doing this, I was trying to come up with an acronym for stress. And I was out for lunch with a really well-established businessman who obviously deals with a lot of stress. And we were having a conversation about what I was working on, and he actually endorsed the book, and he just loved it. He uses it with his family and said it changed his life. But what happened was, when we were having lunch, and I was telling him about my struggle, how do you make stress an acronym? And he said, oh my goodness gracious, you're not going to use the word stress. We're trying to get out of stress. He said the word transform would be the word I would use if I were going to try to create an acronym. But when I sat down after lunch that day on the computer, transform, that was it. The 9 keys that I was talking about in the book absolutely fit there. It meant readjusting how I wrote the book, but the keys were there, and one of them is literally about social connections. And that was the thing that, it was social connections and social networks, the F's in transform. And I actually get into what the research tells us, and the blue zone populations, and about laughter and about connecting with people, and, the happy hour. It doesn't have to be over alcohol. In all of these blue zone areas where people live over 100 happily, successfully, and without additional plastic body parts added, because they're so healthy they don't need them, they literally socialize. They have a happy hour where they get together over coffee or tea or a glass of wine. They dance together, they sing together, and then they go back to work, Well,
for the people who haven't read your book yet, and I hope everyone's going to run out and buy it. In fact, you can actually go to the Zeta store. But can you just touch real quickly on what the blue zone is, or just explain that? I think you touched on it, but just so it's really clear for what that means to people.
Yes. The blue zone is a group of countries. I mean, it's gone from 4 to, I think, 7 now, that they've discovered people living over 100 years of age and living healthfully over 100 years of age. And they looked at what do they have in common that, you don't see in places where people don't live so long. And basically that was what they discovered, was people were, there were 9 characteristics, and it was so amazing because I didn't even look at the 9 characteristics when I was putting my book together, but they actually are very much in alignment with everything that I talk about in my book. But of course, it's much more complex. but it was actually National Geographic that sponsored this whole thing. I think it was 1980. I mean, not 19. I think it was 2002 or 3 or 4. I really should remember, but I don't at the present time. But I will say that it was really powerful when it came out in National Geographic, and somebody actually gave me a copy of the issue after one of my presentations and said, "Oh my goodness, this is what you talk about all the time." And I just, grasped onto that, read everything that came out. I'm trying to remember the guy's first name, but it's Butner, who was behind this research. And like I said, it was just 4 countries initially, and now about 7, where they actually see these people living over 100 happily, very productively. I mean, these people don't just quit working because they turn 60 or 70 years of age. They're not collecting in most of these countries, other than the U.S. Group of people who are in the blue zone. Other than them, most of them do not have access to any kind of funding after they reach 60 or 65. They literally work until they die, but they are joyfully working. You know what I mean? They're
Oh, well, for sure I know what you mean, because I live in Florida, and obviously there's a lot of retired population here. But I also belong to a gym where I'd say the average age is probably 60, if not higher. And to see the people working out, I'm in a spin class, and people are spinning, even instructors that are 20, 30 years older than me, and it's not 30, 20, astonishing to see that, and to see that they are incorporating, probably, as I'm looking at your acronym, a lot of those aspects of it. So you're right. It's really a holistic approach. All of these pieces, like we said before, have to be part of the master formula.
They absolutely do. I mean, if you're missing one piece, you might be out of balance. And I think that's the key here. And it's not like you have to do a lot of anything. As we talked about before on the other show that we were on together, basically it's really about 5-minute strategies. I mean, so often we get caught up in, I don't have any time, I don't have any money, I can't do this. And the fact of the matter is, for most things that you do that are healthy, these cultures, these people aren't necessarily rich in the blue zone financially, but they're rich in all the other ways, because they live life fully as if today's the last day, even though they live much longer than most of us do here. And it's because they grasp onto the very the very essence of life, the beautiful aspects of it, nature, conversation. And that was one of the things that I was studying with the millennials, for example. The conversation has gotten to about 0. There's very little, back and forth conversation. There's texting back and forth, but it's not the same thing as looking into somebody's eyes or doing what we're doing here on the phone, or, on an interview, or even if it's on Skype, where you're actually conversing back and forth with someone and having a heartfelt conversation.
Where you can feel the energy more palpably, because I could say, and we're going to just take a break here soon, is that the age of texting, which I'm not a fan of, there's so many ways to be misconstrued. You can't totally integrate the energy as if you were in person or on the phone with them. You just can't. I'm sorry, you can't exchange it. I know it's efficient, but to really understand somebody, you really have to have that connection. And I think with that connection, there's for me at least, there's a more settling in the body. So I think it's healthier.
The stress levels, I was listening to this very, very popular interview with Simon Sinek. It's very short, 16 minutes or whatever, but he really addresses that whole aspect of what we've got today and why we've got it, and how we can change it. And it was all the things that I realized as I was starting to talk more and more to these young students who have been helping me with ideas for the book. It was like really getting into the heart and soul of them and realizing that they feel the stress. They just don't know the way out. But if you try to do anything more than 5 minutes long, they're probably not going to do it. And quite frankly, that's not just with the youth today. I'm finding that with older people too, because I'll sit down with friends and they're on their cell phone while we're having dinner.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I'm having dinner with you. Could you put your phone away? I put mine away. Could you put yours away? And I have no problem saying that to people too, because I feel like we have to hold each other accountable.
No doubt.
Right? And people they're grateful for that because we get so caught up in it. You know, there's an addiction now to technology.
We'll be right back. Everybody hang tight. Thanks for being here. Hope you're getting some great insight. I know I am. We'll be back in a moment. Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare is Southwest Florida's premier holistic and wellness spa to relax and rejuvenate your well-being. Founded by Lucille Trice, this enlightened haven located in Cape Coral offers a variety of massage therapies including Swedish, deep tissue, and trigger point massage. Trice offers detoxifying body wraps and facials using natural organic ingredients to pamper your skin and restore balance and health. Visit their Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare Facebook page or call 239-672-0526 and book your experience today. Mention ZGR and receive a complimentary ionic foot detox experience. All right, coming back, here we are. We got into a off-air conversation, and I said, no, we need to bring this back. But I think what you were saying about the technology before is such a key point because everyone's affected by it positively or negatively. Positively, of course, all the benefits of, you know, being more efficient, being able to talk to someone across the world by, you know, by camera. But also negatively is if your computer breaks, if your phone crashes, like the amount of stress it causes you because you become so reliant on it. And really what I want to do in this case, I mean, we're pointing out what we know, that there's so much of that going on. But now, how can we, in terms of pulling from your book, give them maybe some practical thoughts, or what can we do to kind of take that edge off? I know you said gratitude, of course, that is amazing, and journaling and breathing and walking, and, you know, and you have so many wonderful, and like you said earlier, quick 5-minute techniques or less that will allow people to have that recentering, or however you want to approach the terminology.
Yes, that was a key thing, a key element when I was doing this book. Like I said, I've been known now for decades as the master of 5-minute healthy strategies, and we're talking healthy strategies. But I had not really thought about it from the standpoint of stress, except that I'm looking back on my history. I studied yoga in India, and we started at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we would go until, 10 o'clock at night, and we might have, quiet time in between. But basically, we didn't sleep a lot, but because we were meditating a lot and we were doing yoga asanas, which were not hot yoga or any of that kind of thing, which are really just exercise. We were actually doing meditation in motion, which is what yoga truly is. Anyway, it was an all-day thing. But when I got back to the real world, North America, there was no way I had a whole day to sit and do all that stuff, especially when I became a mom and, a wife.
Yes, right.
Like, okay, so I didn't realize that I was creating these 5-minute strategies, except that that's the only way I could keep my kids sane and myself sane was with these 5-minute strategies. So they became a part of just living. And then they became a part of my writing and a part of my lectures and my presentations. But when I did this stress book, I realized today it's even more of a problem than ever before because, well, we've got short attention spans. It doesn't matter what age you are. I mean, yes, we can point the finger at millennials, but as I was saying just before the break, I started to notice this in my older friends as well, where they're sitting down, they're addicted to their phone, they take it to bed with them. And I'm guilty of having it there because I call it my alarm clock, right? And that was one of the things that Cynic really got into was, buy an alarm clock. It's only $8. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's a really good point.
That's a great point, actually.
Leave your phone in the living room and charge it during the night while you're asleep and forget about taking it to bed with you because it is truly an addiction where you're constantly looking at it. So what can you do? And so one of the things that I found to be, this is one of the tips that really has been embraced wherever I've spoken, and also, with the young generation as well. And that is the simple tip that I learned, that I suggested to a member of my family, a loved one, who was always complaining about life and about people and about how nothing works and life is just one stress after another. And I said, why don't you start writing a note every day, whether it's a text message, an email, a letter, a card, whatever form you want, and make it different every day. It doesn't have to be the same thing. Pick up the phone, and make a phone call. But express gratitude or appreciation for someone every single day, and don't do it with the same person every day. It doesn't mean you can't do it with the same person, throughout the year, but every day try to, make a list of all the people that you owe a gratitude to, or that you would like to express gratitude to. It doesn't even have to be owing it to them, but just, somebody you love, you care about, that you haven't spoken to for a long time. It's an amazing shift that occurs for you when you contact someone that you haven't spoken to in 10 years and you say, you crossed my mind today, and I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you in my life, even though we haven't been in contact for 10 years.
I love that. Oh, my goodness. I love that. That's yummy.
Yeah, it's. Thank you for that, Lainey, because quite honestly, one of the best things we can do, and it really does bring people together. And it makes you feel, it makes the other person feel fabulous. It makes you feel fabulous. And your energy and their energy goes out in a ripple effect and makes everyone around them and you feel fabulous.
Well, I have to I'm just going to say that just happened to me recently, and it involved this show. My dear friend from childhood, Susan, called me out of the blue. We don't talk that often, but of course we've known each other for, 30, I won't even say a long time, 30, 40 years. And she says, I just needed to let you know I listen to your show every single week, and now I'm even teaching my daughter the principles, just so she gets to know about spirituality. And to get a call from somebody you've known your whole life but haven't talked to that often, just like what you said, it blew my mind. I just was like, I don't even know who listens to the show, right? Not everyone writes to me and tells me. But when someone out of the blue like that did that, and somebody I knew that they were so impacted, she goes, oh no, I've subscribed. I get your notifications. I listen to every show. She's citing different scenarios of every guest who's been on. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So like what you just said, so true, because I received it on the other side. And I think both people feel good about it and feel incredible.
They do. I mean, that's the thing. It's like it's a ripple effect, and it's always a win-win-win.
Yeah. Yep.
Imagine if the whole world were to do that. If everyone in the world were to do something like that, regardless of circumstances in their life, and they might not even have a darn cell phone or anything else or a computer, but they went up to somebody and said, even a total stranger, it doesn't even have to be someone you know. I've done it at supermarkets where I've turned around to somebody and said, I don't know if anybody's ever told you, but you have the most incredible smile. Now, I don't suggest you do this as a lie. I mean, only if you really feel it.
I do that all the time. I compliment people on their hair, their clothes, their wicked purse, shoes, whatever it is. If I'm feeling it, I'm letting them know, because I don't think, I think what you're saying is people are so caught into their technology, they're rarely acknowledging other people in ways that are so human. We forget that.
They've got their head down. I read that one of the illnesses of the future, and it's actually an illness that they anticipate will become a huge problem, is that people will have this neck disorder.
Yes.
Constantly down. I mean, I thought it was a joke at first, and then I actually started doing the research, because I'm in the medical world, right? And sure enough, this is there's an actual name for it, which I can't remember now, but there's an actual name for this particular illness that they're projecting for the future, and it's from having your head down. And if you think about it, what is it that people do? Their head's down all the time. If you really want to be feeling good, you don't have your head down, you have your head up. And looking up, way up, is even more, they've actually shown this in research. When you look up, so for example, if you're feeling really down, don't look down, look up.
Right. That's perfect. That's a stress. Is that another technique that we're saying right now?
Yep. We did that at the universities, where we went outside and did a meditation. And then I said to the students afterwards, okay, stand up and look up and embrace what you've got here. What do you see? Now, at first, it was really hard for these kids. Like, what they saw was the sky. And I said, no, what else do you see? Because we were surrounded by beautiful trees. We were surrounded by plant life. We were surrounded by, gorgeous flowers. And all they saw was the sky. They didn't even see the clouds. So as we started to explore what was around us, it was amazing, the observations, right? And that's one of the things that happens is we're not observing anything because we're so caught up in the only thing we observe is our little 3x3 screen or whatever it is that we have, 3x2 screen.
Sure.
And if instead we take in the screen of life.
There was one part of the book it touched me because I just recently made a post about letting go of the would've, should've, could've's, not even realizing that that there would be the connection, and here you have stopped shooting on yourself. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. That was one of the things I've written about and talked about in everything. I've done blog posts on it. It was in the Instant Energy book. But when I was working on this book, I really got clear. We spend so much of our life on the shoulda list. And I remember years ago doing a program up in on Orcas Island, off the coast of Washington State. And at that course, we had to write down all the things we should get done, right? This long list of should. I should do this, I should do that, I should do this, I should. It was a long list. And then at the end of it, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got so much I've got to get done. And then the instructor said, okay, now let's go inside. It was a cool night. And there was a fire blazing, and he said, now, crumple up that piece of paper and throw it in the fire. I'm like, oh, no, I do that? I just spent all this time writing out what I've got to get done. And the the instructor, of course, looked at us and said, that's the whole idea. Get rid of the shoulda, couldas, wouldas, and instead live your life based on right now, right here, right now, in the moment.
Well, that's so true. And like you said, surrender to it all. Surrender to the should've, would've, could've's, and then the stress, then it releases the stress. I mean, it all ties in. It's so perfect. All right. Well, we're going to take another break. And the show, I mean, I could talk to you forever. I'm sure you have such a wealth of information. But we have one more segment left, and I'm excited about that. So listen to our regular fabulous sponsors. We're so glad they're here to advertise with us, and we will be back in a moment. Hi, Lainey Savante here, and I'd love for you to visit my new Facebook page for my private tarot and oracle session readings called Intuitive Wisdom. That's IN2UITIVE Wisdom. Conscious strategies for manifesting a more harmonious life. Don't we all want to have that? Let's see what's in the cards for you as we look at what needs to be cleared, expanded upon, and evolved. There's a lot to explore when we take a deeper look inside ourselves. Hi, Lainey Savante Wolkin here, and I'm so excited to announce that the Holistic Chamber of Commerce is now up and running in both Cape Coral and Fort Myers in Southwest Florida. If you are looking to be part of an organization and represent excellence in holistic and sustainable mediums and businesses, we'd love to have you be part of who we are. Go to holisticchamberofcommerce.com/Cape Coral or holisticchamberofcommerce.com/Fort Myers and learn all about what we are doing here in the beautiful land of paradise. So we alluded earlier, or not alluded, but at least we indicated that Dr. Marilyn loves to do acronyms. I actually love that too. And so now that we spoke earlier about transform is what you used instead of stress, let's leave our lovely listeners with what transform as an acronym in your book is all about. And of course, they're only going to get a sample of it here, but you can continue on by going and getting the book as well. And one day hearing the book is what I'm rooting for, because I want to be listening to this while I'm walking and reminding myself of all these elements that will allow me to de-stress. Even when someone who really knows how to de-stress, I think no one's immune to it. It creeps up on us. Today it happened with me in my car. So I know that I need to hear it. I need to hear some of these things over and over. So let's share what transform means, and then we will call it a beautiful day.
Sounds fabulous, Lainey. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. It's great to know what stress is, and it's great to know that we have it, and so that, once you're aware, you can start dealing with it. But then the question is, how do you deal with it? So in the transform, the word transform, like I said, I sat down, and within 1 to 5 minutes, I had this all written out. Of course, I dictated it, but I had it all written out. And it was, the T is for talk it out, or talk therapy. We hear about that all the time, but talk therapy is one of the best ways to get through something that's really eating you up. And it doesn't have to be with a therapist. It can be sitting down with someone that you've known your whole life, like I alluded to my girlfriend. We will talk through things. We'll get together and just hang out and have like a coffee klatch, sit down and drink and talk about it. And then you come out and you feel better. You have somebody else's input, even if it's just their listening ear while you're talking it out. The R is for rest, relax, and rejuvenate. Take 5 to save 5. I've been saying that forever. I went through a 5-year journey with cancer. I never took 5 minutes out to just breathe and be still for so many years, as I got caught up in, raising kids and my responsibilities and my job and so on. So it's like just taking 5 minutes to breathe and relax and rejuvenate. The A of transform is for attitude of gratitude. And I know it's an overused cliche term, but the fact of the matter is gratitude is so important. And we know that people express gratitude, it shifts them and it shifts whoever they're, which we talked about just in the last segment. It shifts the other perspective as well.
Attitude of gratitude, and the word appreciation comes to mind, because, some people forget to really appreciate. Be grateful and appreciate.
You actually reminded me of another little cliche, but I love it. What you appreciate.
Yes.
The whole thing of what you're grateful for expands. The same thing. What you focus on expands. So what you appreciate. Nutritional excellence daily is the end. I mean, let's face it. If you don't have a good foundation of food in your body, like just a quick aside here. Transform is based on mind, body, spirit, health. It's not based on one aspect of you. It's based on the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of yourself, the whole person. So that's where all this comes in. And Nutritional Excellence Daily is really critical because it really addresses the need for the foundational nutrients that are going to provide what the body needs to fight against stress, like the B vitamins, vitamin C, and all the other phytochemicals that are in the food. Then there's the S, which we talked about before, for social connections and social networks. So critical. And that encompasses things like laughter. And I talk to people about, go out to a laughter therapy class or a laughter yoga class. Learn to have a belly laugh. And when you do, and if you express that, it'll change the world. The F of transform is for follow your heart. And I'm so passionate about that part of it, because if you're just living your life according to other people's standards and the status quo, you'll never, ever be happy. You'll always feel stressed. But when you march to your own drummer, whether you call it a different drummer or whatever, when you march to your own drummer, people love you more because they feel your authenticity. They become more authentic as well. It's a whole ripple effect there as well.
I love how you just said that. That was just so poignant and so perfect and so true about authenticity, that we can't just be sheeples for someone else's sake. We're just going to wake up one day and find ourselves in a whole bag of trouble.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the problems in the world, is that people do become sheeple. I'm from Scotland, good Scots, and sheep are everywhere. So when I see people doing the same thing, it's like, hold on, we were born individually. And yes, we're supposed to be socially connected and interdependent. There's nothing wrong with being interdependent while you're being independent, So it's really about being, authentic in who you are and the expression of who you are. So, yeah, absolutely. And, of course, the O is for offer a helping hand of service and support. So often we forget. And I'm not talking about handouts. I'm talking about hand-ups. Helping people throughout their lives. The story I tell is about going into not a supermarket, a Lowe's store, and meeting this woman, finding this woman who looked very sad, smiling at her. She looked down. I waited outside the store for her, asked her if I could help her, if she needed a shoulder or someone to talk to. And before I knew it, she started to open up. And then I said to her, why don't we go grab coffee or a glass of wine next door? There was a cafe next door. She said, that would be nice, but can I just go into the store here? I want to return the things I have. She went in, returned the things, and came out, and we went from there with the conversation. She was about to commit suicide that night. She had bought ropes and axe and all kinds of things, and she was going to do herself in that night. And that night, because somebody reached out and smiled and offered a helping hand, she didn't. And today she's happily married, by the way, and her life is wonderful.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for that. Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was one of those, I've done this more than once in my life, but that was one of the most dramatic things that happened not that long ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Okay, the R is for rejoice in your successes and the successes of others, to reconnect to God, whatever, your idea of God is. For me, God is, omnipotent, there all the time. But the point is to rejoice in your successes and the successes of others. It's not okay to just rejoice in your own successes, because if you're not rejoicing in the successes of others, it's a very short-lived joy. Whereas when you're constantly feeling great feelings for somebody who's just had a massive win, celebrate to accelerate.
Yeah. Just by you sharing your story, how you helped this woman, I felt the success, and so it felt like it was mine too, because I got to be in the vibration of what you just shared. And that's like such a perfect immediate example of saying how well we can all receive of each other's successes without it compromising anybody at all.
Exactly. When you give somebody, it goes back to the gratitude and appreciation and all of those things, but it's really about, human connection. It's about really being there for each other in a loving, compassionate, meaningful way. And then we come to the M of transform, and that is all about mindfulness, meditation, observing your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your feelings at all times. Because when you're doing that, it's like when people say to me, oh, I'm so depressed. Okay, let's sit down and just look at what's going on here. What are you actually feeling? What's going through your mind? What are your thoughts? What words are you using? Let's transform those words. Let's change them. Let's become really mindful of what's going on at the deepest level. And you can do that very quickly. At first, it's a little bit of an exercise to learn how to do that. But I can have a classroom of students or a room full of seminar attendees go into that state within less than 5 minutes, where they are absolutely mindful of what's going on. And you can see the entire room, their faces change in just a short space of time. So it's not like, and I will tell you that one of my favorite ways to do this, so isn't something that's a short space of time, is to whenever I find a labyrinth anywhere in the world, I walk that labyrinth. And it could be a quick walk, or it could be a very slow, mindful walk. Generally, it's the latter. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be simply a stroll on the beach and taking in the sand under your feet, feeling it, feeling the granules of sand under your feet and between your toes. That is called mindfulness. It's nothing complicated.
There's no dramatic effort. It's just that consciousness of really tuning into what is happening around you. So I think that is such an important piece, because the earth is stressed right now. She's stressed, mama. Like, we all need to de-stress, not only for ourselves, but if we can all de-stress, vibrationally shift that frequency, we can shift that for our planet who we're just visiting here. So I'm really embracing what you're saying, because it's so important, not only for ourselves, but for our families and our communities and for our fellow human beings. So really, really good work here.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. I mean, the thing is that the planet is desperately in need of people who are conscious and aware. So it does start with the individual, but it has to involve, the entire universe when it comes down to it. We have to be aware that our little cell can impact this huge cell.
So we're actually at the end of our show. I want to be able to let people know, not only, of course, they can buy your book, but do you do workshops? Do you have, how can people connect with you further from here, from this moment on?
I think probably the easiest way is through the website, the stresstosuccessformula.com. It's just the same as the book, the stresstosuccessformula.com. There are gifts there, things that they can get that will help them on their way. They're really wonderful tools, let's say, that they can utilize right away. And also that will allow them to then learn about what's coming up in the near future. We're going to definitely be doing webinars and seminars online and through the phone, to teleseminars, etc. So we've been putting that together, and we're also looking at a podcast. So we're now brainstorming what that podcast is going to be called, whether it's going to be the same name or something else, but we are looking at that. So they would be first to hear about that as well when it comes out, and it will, address the things that are in this book and the many people who are working with stress around the world.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for all your incredible wisdom and your amazing, amazing energy to help people really get to where they want to be. I see why they call you the Vitality Doctor, and I am so grateful we got to spend another wonderful hour here today sharing about this book. It's just so packed with so many great, easy to understand tips. It's not like you have to be walking some spiritual path forever. It's really for the everyday person that they can incorporate, and that's what I love about it. It's something for everyone. So thank you for being here today. I'm so glad we have this opportunity to connect again.
Me too. Thank you so much, Lainey. It's always a joy to speak with you and to share the time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, stay on the line as we say goodbye to our listeners this week. Thank you all for listening, for tuning in, for stepping up and realizing that we all need extra support sometimes, and there are wonderful experts here on Zeta Global Radio, always here each week to be of service and provide that to you. So we wish everybody a blessed and beautiful week. Take care. Mm-hmm.